Hey guys, welcome to lesson number 4 in the GM training series. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, this is a series that I'm going to be posting inside of Chess Vibes Academy, which just launched earlier this week. It's open for a couple more days and it's closing for 3 months so I can focus on everybody inside. There's other stuff in Chess Vibes Academy, but this is a new thing that we're also going to be adding. For those of you who don't know, I recently decided to try to become a grandmaster, and I'm doing a lot of different things training-wise on that journey. And so if you want to be a part of that and hear and see more videos like this one, you're going to want to check out Chess Vibes Academy. That's where all this is going to be. Okay. Now, a couple of questions. You might be wondering, Nelson, why are you hiding your name? And why are you only rated 2110? So let me explain. Chess.com was kind enough to give me an anonymous account. And this is pretty standard. If you look it up, like you can request this, I think, or maybe I'm not sure if you have to be a title player or not, but you can request an anonymous account. So this game was played on my anonymous account. I'm not giving that handle away because I don't want people to see like which openings I'm playing and stuff like that all the time. So it's kind of just so you can practice on your own. But I've got the rating there so you can see I'm only 2100 on that account. It was just a new account, and so you have to kind of work your way up. And I'm playing against 2131. Okay, let's take a look at this game. This is a fascinating game, and I'm really proud of myself for one moment in this game because I made a decision that I wouldn't normally make. And the fact that I made that decision, I think, is a really good sign that, like, hey, I'm actually learning and I'm actually fixing some of the mistakes in my thought process. So you guys can let me know in the comments if you agree with that or not. But let's go ahead and take a look. So I played e4, and my opponent played the French defense. Now, part of what I am doing to do this grandmaster journey thing is playing lots of different openings. Okay, normally I would play bishop e3. This is what I've been playing for a long time, the Alpin Gambit, which is very tricky and I like it, but against a strong player, maybe it's not the best. So I decided to try a different line today, also kind of a tricky one. I've seen a Chess Mood course on this like a long time ago, so I sort of have some ideas floating around in my mind, but I haven't brushed up on the theory, and so I'm not super familiar. But what I will tell you is that the point is that you put your bishop on f3 and it kind of controls this knight, and you can throw these pawns forward in some situations. It's just kind of an annoying bishop, like sort of making it hard for black to figure out what to do. Okay, so that's kind of the idea. At least that's what I remember. So they played bishop b7. I developed my knight. They castled. I developed. They played knight to d5, and you know, I was like, okay, well, I could just take, but then I open up their bishop. I don't really want to help them develop their pieces. Also, the pawn there, after the pawn goes on c6, it kind of just shuts down my really nice bishop, so I didn't like that. I thought maybe I just castle and let them take me, and that seemed okay. But then I was like, you know, what if I play knight e4? And my point is I can play c4, kick the knight away, and we keep some more pieces on the board, and who knows, maybe this knight comes over to the king side and I can attack. So that was my idea. They played b6. Now, as soon as I saw b6, I was like, wait a second. That looks like an awful move. You look at the rook, you look at my bishop, and I immediately began to start thinking there might be some tactics here. So I played the move c4, which is what I wanted to play anyway. Chase the knight away. They played knight b4. Now, look carefully here. And what move would you play in this position if you're white? All right, if you had a chance to pause and think about that, I'm going to guess some of you said, hey, why don't we go check and take a free rook? And I'm going to be honest with you, this is a move that I was very, very tempted to play initially, but after I thought about it a little more, I said, wait a second, Nelson, is this the move that Stockfish would play? Like, is this really the best thing that Stockfish could come up with in a position like this? And ultimately, I decided no. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, we have to give up a knight for free. Yes, we do get a rook, but there's the possibility that our bishop gets trapped. Now, I didn't know if that was going to be a permanent thing or not, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, how are they actually going to take the bishop? I mean, maybe they have time to play these two moves and just take it. But then I was like, maybe I can do something to kind of bust that up and maybe the bishop can escape. I'm not exactly sure, but I was worried that maybe it gets trapped. If it does get trapped and I lose a knight and a bishop for a rook, that's a bad trade. So that was on my mind. And then there was also this idea of bishop takes d4, which I was like, whoa, wait a second. Takes, they sack the queen and then they fork me. And then they take my queen, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. Is this good for me or not? Like, it looks like black has some nice compensation. Stockfish says I'm okay. So all of this is going through my mind. And then I was thinking to myself, you know, my position looks really good, like right now, without doing this. And if I didn't have that tactic available, I'd probably just play a3 and b4 and be really happy with my position. So then I was like, well, what if I just do that anyway? What if I just ignore this? And I said, I don't really care. Maybe I could win a rook, win the exchange, you know, knight for a rook. But is it even worth it? So I decided to play a3, which Stockfish says is the best move. Well, it's tied with castling. It says castling and a3 are the best moves. So, guys, I am so proud of myself for recognizing, like, hey, you don't have to just play this random move and take a rook just because it's there. You might have something better, and it's a calm, just sort of natural move. Like, it just, I don't know. I just felt like, okay, now I'm actually playing some good, solid chess. Like, I'm playing in a way that I feel like a GM might play, right? Doing stuff like this. Now, don't get me wrong. I have a long way to go, but having little moments like this are very encouraging for me. And so they played knight c6, and I played b4. And Stockfish is like, yeah, this is a great plan. Like, you expand, you get a whole bunch of space. Look at my huge center. I didn't give up these really nice pieces for a random rook in the corner that's not doing anything. And I have a great position, right? So let's keep going. They played bishop b7. I played bishop b2. This was kind of the setup that I was envisioning. Look at this bishop lining up here. I've got a lot of pieces that I'm thinking about I'm going to try to attack the king with. Also, the knight on f6, which is a great defender of the king, has been relocated to the other side of the board. And this guy's kind of awkward. It doesn't have a lot of options. Very awkward situation for black. They go here. I played queen c2. You might be able to see what I'm lining up on. h7 pawn, right? They went here, and I played knight g5. Now, my plan is very simple, okay? This is checkmate if the knight on f6 doesn't exist. So if it was my turn, I would simply push my pawn forward, attack the knight. Let's just say they take me. I would take their knight, they would take me back, and I get checkmate, right? Like, very simple and clear plan. d5 is about to win the game. So black has to do something right away. So they play h6. Pause the video. What move should you play here? So this one was pretty easy for me. This is a common attacking technique when you're attacking on the opponent's king side, and you have not castled yet. That's a key factor, okay, because you need to use this rook. You can do what's called a fishing pole trap. h4, it gets the brilliant move here, because if they take you, you simply take back, and now you've replaced that threat with a rook instead of a knight. The rook is now supporting the queen. And at the same time, guess what? You're attacking that, which is what we want to do with our bishop. We don't even have to. We just use the pawn. And black is done. Like, they're just in trouble. You're going to just take their knight and get your piece back. And if they try to save it, obviously, you just checkmate. So they can't take. So h4, really nice move. Not really that hard to find. It's, you know, if you've seen this fishing pole trap idea, you just play h4 and you pretty much know it's going to work out for you. So they played g6. White to play. What's the move? Well, we've gone through a series on the channel a while ago, Logical Chess Move by Move, and there was a game in there where there was some sacrifice with the knight. It was not this exact same position, but it was similar, and you sacrificed a knight to lure this away so your queen could come in, and that's immediately what I was thinking. I'm like, well, can I just get away with this, you know? And I saw that I could go 1, 2, 3. If you can get 3 pawns for a knight and you completely obliterate the defenders in front of the king, you should do it. So again, this was a relatively straightforward move for me, and it's 2 brilliants in a row. Knight takes e6, we also get the bonus that it's a fork. So if they, you know, thought about not taking, they have to give up an exchange. So that's a hard decision to make. Now, actually, Stockfish says that's the best decision, to just move your queen, let me take here, and the game kind of goes on from there. Obviously, it's not good for black, but this is just, you just can't do it, right? Queen comes in, they move here. Now, white's play. What do you do here? So I decided to not take the pawn. Now, Stockfish says you could definitely take the pawn. It's not a bad move. Knight f4 is also a good move. But what I was thinking was that if I take the pawn, they can play knight h7, defend their king. Yes, I could play d5 and open up my bishop, but it looked like they could go bishop f6, and I was like, okay, my attack is kind of ending. Maybe there's bishop e4, but maybe they can defend, and I wasn't sure if I actually had an attack. Now, it's still good for me. I'm going to be able to get an extra piece here, and I'm probably going to win that endgame pretty easily, but I was trying to really be accurate, and I was like, well, what if I just wait a second? What if I just wait a second? And I realized something. I played the move d5. Because what I realized is that after they take me here, and if they don't take, by the way, then when I go here, they can't block with the knight because it's pinned. Okay? So they took. Now I took, or like I just said, it's pinned. So they can't block. So they have to play king g8. And guess what? Now my bishop can come in with a check, and you will notice a cool little detail. They can't take me because there's a checkmate on g7. Look at that. So what does this mean for the black king? The only move you can play is either rook f7 or queen takes d5. During the game, the only move that I actually thought they could play was rook f7. I forgot that they could sacrifice their queen, which is what they did. They sacrificed their queen, did not get checkmated immediately. In my mind, I was thinking they were going to go here. I was going to go check, take the rook back. They're going to have to go in the corner. I could take it either way. And obviously, I'm completely winning. But they decided to sacrifice the queen. I took back. They played their knight back. And there's lots of ways to win. Apparently, there's a forced checkmate after queen g8. And then you bring... Oops, sorry about that. I need to reset that. I apologize. Hopefully that didn't reveal anything. I may have to edit this video. Anyway, what was I going to say? I played rook h3. But Stockfish says you should actually throw in the check first, and then rook h3 actually leads to a checkmate, which, okay, at this point, the game is just so totally over, doesn't exactly matter. But I played rook h3. They tried to run. I brought my knight into the party. Then I brought my rook over, lining up. Then I went for this little check. So it looks like it's defended, one attacker, one defender, but there's actually a fork. So that's why I played queen h5 check. They played here. I captured. They played knight c6. I castled, lining up here, and they played rook takes f2. What's the move for white? Well, that's correct. You do have a discover check, so you can move your knight wherever you want. You can also take this pawn, which is a double check and checkmate. This is controlled here. This is controlled here. This is controlled by the knight. This is attacked by the rook, and you can't block because you're also in check by the knight. So you have to move your king, but there's no safe place to move the king. So it's a really cool double check checkmate. Really nice game. But like I said, the moment that I'm most proud of, not even these two brilliant moves. The two brilliant moves were the easy part, to be honest with you, right? The hard part was getting into this position, which I think happened right here when I decided to play a3 instead of going for this line, which wasn't that great for me. So yeah, I'm really proud of that. If you like this video and you want to see more like this, now's the time to sign up for Chess Vibes Academy. And as I play these training games and as I work on exercises and things like that for the Grandmaster journey, you'll find that inside of Chess Vibes Academy. So thank you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you next time. Stay sharp, play smart, take care.